What's up, T-Town fam? Eric here for Sunday, September 7th, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Hope you guys are enjoying the content so far. Today marks episode 9, where it's you know, building my future from survival mode into creation. Um, for most of my life, I was reacting to the past. But once the foundation was rebuilt, the question became, what kind of future do I actually want to build? And, with that being said, like that took a lot of thought over the years. That wasn't one thing that, was prevalent because, again, I had built myself up by survival up until my mid 20s. And unfortunately, due to poor choices that I've outlined in previous episodes, um, I had to start from scratch. And with starting from scratch, allows you to kind of, clean, work off of a clean slate. And that was tough because you didn't know whether you were coming or going, and you kind of had to forget what you did previously, and then start something brand new. So, the one thing for this was, being able to kind of heal all my wrongs. Um, and then turn that healing into creation as far as what I wanted to be. And again, that still took me quite a bit of time to kind of figure out, and up through the rest of my 20s into my 30s, mid 30s, and then I was kind of like, all right, this is this is the path that I wanted to go, and both personally and professionally as well. And I still don't have all the answers because to me, it's a daily process, and I take each day as it comes. Um, I set small goals for myself so I can have them achieved. It's a sense of accomplishment, um, and that's one thing that I found, that just by setting small goals, um, really helped me stay in line, um, for accomplishments, rather than taking like being like, all right, one big thing and mark it down and then work my ass off to try to achieve it, and then not being able to achieve it or coming up short. Yeah, no. To me, it's taking those small steps to chip away. Um, talking back about episode 8, foundation meant means stability, and in this one, that's kind of the start of it, but now I'm looking at vision means direction. So again, outlining those goals. What do you want? And you have to have honest questions with yourself. Um, Look in the mirror and have those questions, or sit down at your desk, write them down. What is it, that you want? What is it that you see that you want to, kind of manifest for your future? And I'm telling you, if you start small, and then build, kind of like the snowball effect, right? If you're paying off, credit cards, what do they say? They say pay the minimums, pick your smallest card and try to get that one paid off. And then you take that payment and then apply it to another credit card to get that paid off. So on and so forth till you finally at the largest one where you have all those previous payments that are all now lumped into one plus what you were paying before to get that paid off. So look at it like this. It's kind of, setting yourself up, with small goals, so let's just say, going to bed. It's I used to go to bed at midnight. Well, wasn't getting much sleep, felt tired in the morning, sluggish. Now I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. Oh, okay, and the earlier you go to bed, the earlier you wake up. So now instead of waking up at, let's just say 6 or 7 in the morning, go to bed at 10 o'clock. You can still wake up at 6, knowing that you got a couple of more hours of sleep, rather than, 6 hours, you got 8 hours. So, just making small changes like that, Also with your mental health, reading reading a book. Pick a book, read 10 to 15 minutes, each day, or 10 pages, however you want to break that down, until you finish it. And then once you're done with that, you grab another book and you see what you can do, and you're slowly, building your, excuse me, your mental capacity, and you're growing. And then also your physical wellness. You know, whether it's starting off walking, you walked half a mile. Okay, now we're gonna walk to three-quarters of a mile, and then we're gonna walk to a mile, and then a mile and a quarter, mile and three, mile and a half, so on and so forth. So you kind of get the gist of where I'm going with it. But that will then set up your direction going forward. Um, Going from surviving to living. Um, Now I had to realize, imagining possibilities, and that was tough for me because imagining possibilities with kind of a clear cut answer, which was something I had to build myself. Um, so again, it was, instead of, being that chameleon and adapting to every situation, it was, excuse me, putting my foot down and planting and, watering it and growing to what I wanted to be in the future. And again, that is a process. That does not come overnight. That is something that you have to work on each and every single day. Um, but by doing that, it's going to make you a better person overall. And that's ultimately, one of the goals within, why I do that is why I'm doing this is because, I want to be able to reach, at least one of you so you can see that you're not alone. Everybody goes through struggles, and we're here for you. So, keep that in mind, as you're going through this journey yourself. You know, Now it's about defining the vision, right? What is it? And you go from surface level stuff to deeper stuff. And that's, one thing during my journey right now is I was always surface level. And, I had to go deep. Excuse me. I had to go deep within myself to get the questions, and that is not easy because you know you have to be in a certain mindset. Like, you know, you ask yourself, what kind of man did I want to be? What kind of father, partner, friend do I want to show up as? What kind of life actually excites me, not just sustains me? Um, and when you're asking, questions like that and seeing what you can come up for an answer for yourself, it's going to give you a pretty good, idea on where you stand. And the good part is this is just a jumping off point. This isn't, word is bond type of thing. This is something for you to start in one position and then be able to move forward throughout those questions. Like going back to what kind of man do I want to be? Okay, well, I want to be a man of character and honesty. Okay, so what do you have to do? Is, say what you mean and mean what you say. Um, and keep everything truthful. And excuse me, factual. Because if you do that, you can't go wrong, you know. And you're gonna come across some people that are gonna be like, oh man, well, how can you say that? Where's your empathy, on certain things? But here's the thing: as long as you keep it factual, people don't like the facts. Why? Because it exposes them. They don't like to talk about the positive stuff. It's all about negativity because that's easier. So, you know, trending towards being more positive with yourself, excuse me, and then everybody else, I think you will see a difference. You will find out who who is a friend and who is not a friend. You will find out very quickly who will get offended and who won't get offended. Um, and that's just the way it is these days. And unfortunately, um, we can't say really boo to anybody, but in the same token, if they're asking you, keep it honest, keep it a buck. You know what I mean? That's the only way. One of the ways that you can kind of sleep easier at night, to use a cliche like that, because you're giving it to them straight. You're not sugarcoating it. You're letting them know how you feel. Now, how you feel, you know, is just you. Now, obviously, somebody else could feel something different, and so on and so forth, and that's okay. And that's what you have to. That's what you have to understand. Um, is that no, not everyone's going to agree with you, but if you keep it factual and you keep it honest, you're doing yourself a service. So kind of keep that in mind. Looking at what kind of father, partner, friend do I want to show up as, and again, following that same line of honesty, and compassion. Understanding that each situation is different. Being a parent is not easy. I don't care what you say, or you can talk to 1,000 people, read 1,000 books, but until you go through it yourself, being a parent is, it's very difficult, rewarding, but very difficult in the same token, because there's a lot of moving parts with that. As a partner, you know, um, whether you are, it doesn't matter. Um, it doesn't matter realistically, like, who you love, and if you love somebody, or you're exclusive with them, you know, are you there for them? Are you showing up? Everybody shows up physically to a point, but the key is show up mentally as well. And that's what I've, found out in my current relationship with my girlfriend, is that, we had things on kind of a surface level, but we've now chosen to go deeper within ourselves, within our relationship. And to me, it's created such a stronger bond between us that, it's comforting to know that, like, to be able to express yourself, and to be able to talk to her about how I'm feeling. And, we had a conversation about this the other night, was, you know, like, I had expressed myself, and to me it sounded like gibberish, but she understood it completely. And, she then tells me that, um, you know, the reason why you think it sounded gibberish is because you've never actually spoken out loud about it. And I agreed. I said, yeah, no, you're right. So it's just getting, more and more comfortable talking about how I'm feeling, because I want her to see all of me, and how I'm doing. So, just kind of keep that in the back of your head, and also find out, getting back to the question, what kind of life excites you. Um, you know, Life is short. You know, where tomorrow's never guaranteed, so you want to kind of live each day as it comes, to the best of your ability. And that doesn't mean, deep six, everything, and be like, oh yeah, I can do whatever I want. Use a little discretion, save you in the long run. But yeah, find out, what it is that you want to do, and put that into action, because um, it's very easily, it's very easy to kind of be get lost in the day to day, the complacency, the repetitive aspect, the redundancy. So make sure you have some sort of outlet, something that you can, fall back on. You know, Now we're, going into a part where we're putting my vision into action, through habits, routines, commitments that I started aligning with my vision. Now, there are certain, and when I say my vision, that that kind of is, I don't want to say it's misleading, but in the sense of, it's my vision for certain things. And right now I am focused on I am focused on myself, which is, making sure that I'm taking care of my body, excuse me, taking care of my body, taking care of my mind, taking care of my peace, um, because that ultimately, means the most to me at this juncture, where I'm at. Um, by making these videos for this series, journaling, um, prioritizing presence when I'm with my girlfriend, um, and focusing on values that I feel are important within our relationship, and then values that I feel that are important with myself, and just making those changes, and getting a timeline to which you know having a timeline can be daunting because you're like, oh man, clock's running. What do I do? How do I do it? Don't worry about that. Set up set up your set up your timeline and just stick to it, because consistency will help you complete that faster than you just sitting there and be like, oh, well, what's this? You know what I mean? I still have X, Y, X amount of time left, or, not seeing the results that I wanted to. Um, but just stay the course, I'm telling you. Um, Small daily actions are greater than big declarations. So I know I touched about it earlier, but stay, as I told my father in business years ago, keep it small, keep it all. And this holds true with what you're trying to do within your journey, which is create those small daily actions that you can accomplish to get that sense, feel that sense of accomplishment. Hey, listen, I did this today. Ask yourself every single day, what did I do to make myself better? Oh, well, I woke up, I woke up early and I made my bed. Perfect. Great way to start your day. And then I went to work and I completed, a project that, I had been putting off. Perfect. You know, and then afterwards I took care of my physical being by going to the gym and doing a workout, or going for a walk, or yoga class, whatever, Peloton, you know, like that's one thing that you want to kind of, you know, keep those small, simple daily actions, and you will see major changes over. You'll see the rewards over a period of time, and it's not going to be quick, but you will see it eventually. And it'll probably take you about 12 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. So kind of keep that in mind, 2 to 3 months. You know, the one thing is by building the vision, my priorities and mindset shift to from repair to possibility, because I spent a good amount of time in my 20s repairing, um, and it was tough, and it's still tough to this day, even though that was 20 years ago. Um, you know, those choices that you make don't just disappear. So, I use that as fuel in my day to day. Whatever it is that you have going on, I recommend you use that as fuel to keep that light burning strong, so it allows you to accomplish what you're setting out to do. Um, you know, the one thing with this change in my journey and I spoke about it briefly, but is my relationship, my personal relationship with my girlfriend. We see the benefits, and um, because learning to do learning to omit what I grew up on, and to be able to take what I've learned and apply it within my relationship means a heck of a lot. Excuse me, I'm tired this morning. But you will see the benefits, and it's going to be something that they'll appreciate too. So again, it's being present, it's being consistent, it's following through. It's being a man of your word. If you say something, do it and do it to completion. Don't half-ass it. And I've done a lot of half-assing in my day, and it got me to a certain point, and that was it. You know, um, so just commit. Don't be afraid. Do it 100%. And if you do it that way, you can't. It's something that you can't say. Well, if I had finished this, then things would have been better. Or if I'd done this, things would have been better. Well, guess what? If you do it at 100%, you won't have to ask yourself that question. You can then use that as an example. When you said, hey, listen, I said I would take you, away for the weekend, and you planned the entire weekend. Okay, well, you did that. I mean, you shouldn't have to say it because it's something that they'll know, but again, it's a lot better to say, it's a lot better to go out and do things like that rather than say, oh yeah, let me take you, I'll take you for a weekend, you just let me know. And then that question never comes up because of whatever. So, keep that in mind, honestly. One thing that I will say, vision without action is a dream. Nothing wrong with dreams, but action without vision is survival. But when you bring them together, that's when you build a life. And it's okay to dream. It's perfectly fine to dream. You need to aspire to do things. You need to be inspired to do things as well. So, um, you want to be able to, when you bring them together, that's when you build your life. That's when you start building your life. So, keep that in the back of your brain that it's okay to dream, but you need action, um, and you have to have that vision. So, that's one thing. Going through in your own journey is keep that on the forefront. Is write it down, vlog it, blog it. You know, it doesn't matter how you do it. Whatever path works for you. Um, you know, and then actively work on it to get to where you want to go. You know, um, so I'm going to invite you to comment on this statement, and I want to hear your feedback. So, what's one part of the vision for your future you're building right now? Ask yourself that. You know, what's one part of the vision for your future you're building right now? Leave a comment. I want to hear. I want to see what you guys have to say, um, because I think you'll shock yourself on what you're going to be writing down. And the beauty part is you could write one thing down today, or you can write one thing down 4 weeks from now, or 6 weeks from now, and 8 weeks from now, and they could all be different. Why? Because they're constantly evolving. So, but for now, just write one part. What's one part of your vision for your future that you're building right now? And if you don't know, it's a great way to start. A great place to start. You know. One thing I want to kind of get back, an update for like episode 10 that will air on the 14th. Now it's about sustaining momentum and facing setbacks, which, going through that, you know, there's no bet. The comeback's going to be better than the setback, and that's one thing that I've kind of learned. So that's something to look forward to as episode 10 will be popping out next week. But I appreciate you guys taking the time and watching this and seeing my content, and understand that I'm new at this. Like, I'm an old guy in a young person's world, you know just trying to give my experiences to you, to see if we got anything in common, because I know everybody does. And don't be afraid, you know, don't be afraid to leave a comment, reach out, because that's what I'm here for. I want you guys to know that. And I appreciate all of you who take the time to watch and comment and listen to my story. But on that note, you guys enjoy your Sunday. Get after it in whatever it is that you do. And we will see you next week at 7 a.m. Have a good one.